It stuns me how, for all these years that I've read this book, there hasn't been a single video on YouTube talking about it. When you look it up on Google, there's not really a lot of talk around it. Yet, this is one of those books that will completely change your life if you let it. And with that, I mean, if you open up your mind to the ideas and philosophy of the book without instantly reaching conclusions, right? Because a lot of people do that. If you would just approach the book with an open mind and really let the author take you on a journey into his worldview when it comes to dating and seduction and women in general, your life can completely change. How do I say that? That's because when I read the book 10 years ago, in September 2014, I know it exactly because I read the book when I was on an airplane towards Poland. That's when I really started reading the book, and I know exactly when this was. And Poland is a country that is full with very feminine women. It so happens to be that this book works the better when you're around the most feminine women. Let's say it's the more feminine women around you are, the better the principles in this book work. And that is because the book teaches you to be extremely masculine. And in dating and seduction and attraction, the one thing that we all feel very attracted to, given that you're either very feminine or very masculine, is the opposite of what you are. So if you're a very feminine woman, you feel very attracted to masculine traits. A low voice, strong eye contact, anything that communicates confidence or dominance or high testosterone, right? For example, that is a low voice. And so, in the same way, when you're a man, as a masculine man, you feel very attracted to a soft voice, to feminine traits. So it's these differences that we feel very attracted to. Now, of course, the people who will scream the loudest that this book, well, all of the things that might be wrong with the book, and of course, taken too literally, yes, it might, there's a lot of things wrong with the book if you take it too literal, which, by the way, I did a little bit as a 21-year-old naive guy. I took the book very literal, but also that made me experience insane success. Looking back at it, I don't know if it actually was success, right? Because I have a lot of experience with women, not necessarily the kind of experience I'm proud of, right? Because we are conditioned to believe that as men, we want to sleep around with many women. The question is that what you really want, right? Because there are some downsides with that as well. I'm not talking about STDs or anything like that, although that could be a downside as well. Anyway, the people who will scream the loudest about this book are those that are not very feminine or not very masculine. You'll never hear an extremely masculine person or an extremely feminine person, given it's a feminine woman and a masculine man, complain, right? Because they'll understand that these things actually really do work. Anyway, I wanted to just make this quick video because I thought, why is nobody talking about this book? If applied correctly, this book, as a man, can change your life. There's no question about it. Now, I've had many friends of mine who read this book also, just like me, with different results. And it's always those who approach the book with still their own ego worldview, right? Like with their own opinions of how a woman should be courted, or how you should attract a woman, or what you should do to make a woman feel very sexually attracted to you. It's always those guys that have the least results. Why did I have so much success reading this book? And you don't need to believe me for my word, but I've done things, and I'm not saying this to brag because, again, I'm not sure if I even should be proud of it, although I am proud of it simply from a skill perspective. But from an experiential perspective, I don't know if I should be proud of it. But I've done things that I genuinely thought I was in a movie. You know, crazy stuff. This is mostly when I was younger. Like I'm calmer now, and I. It's not all about the pursuit and about the dating and about the sex and all of that. For me now, it's more about meeting a woman that really, really excites me and really gets me excited. Which, as you date more attractive women, becomes harder and harder, right? As Mr. Anton writes in his book, as you get more experience with very attractive women, they become less special, right? Like the first very beautiful woman you ever had in your life, if you ever had such a woman, the kind of woman that you look at and that you just, that takes your breath away, right? That you completely lose your train of thought just looking at her. Once you had sex with her for the first time, for such a woman, you're gonna be ecstatic about it, and that feeling will still be with you even when you had sex with 10, 20, 30 of such women. But it becomes less, just like with anything that increases your dopamine, right? Like the first time you like use some kind of drugs, or you eat something very tasty. First time it's amazing, but when you instantly eat it this for the second time, the third time, fourth time, each time that peak in dopamine is going, is less and less. It's the same with women like that. So where I was going with this, I actually forgot. I only slept 4 hours last night. I just came back from Madrid. I had some experience with very attractive women, and so I thought, let me just make a video on this because I every now and then I like to listen to the audio book of the manual. But also that book, it disappeared from Audible. I purchased it years ago, and I still have it, but you cannot purchase it right now. I looked on YouTube to see if there's any kind of video about this book. There is none. Unfortunately, and if somebody can comment on this, that would be great, but Mr. Anton is also nowhere to be found. His website is down, and I tried several times to get in touch with him because I think he's a absolute genius, and I would love to get to know him. But yeah, if you can get me in touch with him, or if you, Mr. Anton, are watching this video, please do get in touch with me. I mean, I would really appreciate that. I would really like to jump in a call with you. But yeah, if you are considering this book or you're doing research about it, buy the book and read it with an empty mind, because that's what I did. I read it with such an empty mind that I took it very literal, to the point where, a funny story about this. At some point, Mr. Anton writes in the book, he's talking about a hypothetical situation where, you are with your woman, right? That's how he writes. I love it. By the way, the book is full of like witty, humoristic comments. There's many points at which you start to, you just, you have to laugh. It's very funny. And so he refers to your woman, right? Like when you are with your woman, which is interesting, and totally understand where he's coming from. But I took the book so literal that one time I was standing in the club, and this is when I just read the book, and I was really just applying this stuff. And I was in the club in the smoking area. This is back when I still smoked. I was talking to these two attractive women. They were friends. And then this drunk guy came, and he was this is something that, by the way, almost never happened to me, but this is one of those cases that he just came and he started being really annoying and trying to basically cockblock me. Just get in, just try to do whatever he can, like kind of jealous that, you're confidently talking to two attractive women, and then he's the type of guy that's going to try to, distract you and like make sure that you're going to fail, stuff like that, very sad mentality. And at some point, he started to really bother me. So I turned around and I said to him, like, can you please leave me alone, because I'm standing here talking to my women. And of course, the women heard that, and they were like, what? Who the hell are you to say that? And they instantly walked away with him. So that was a great lesson. One of my first lessons in not taking the book too literal, like you shouldn't take it that literal. But yeah, I mean, still, because I took it so literal, my results have been insane. I don't want to go into details because it's untasteful and nobody wants to hear details about how you seduced so many women or what you did. You know, if you'd like to hear such, you can get in touch with me and I have many, many, many stories to tell you. But the point is that if you want to learn how to attract, like the point is also that when I was, I think 19 or 20, I reached my first financial goal. I learned the power of setting goals. And then I set so many goals for myself, by the way, most of which I now at 30 years old achieved. And I wrote also one of my goals, which once I started making money, my next goal was, and I remember this clearly, I wrote down, I want to be able to walk into any nightclub and take home with me within 5 minutes the most sexy, beautiful girl in the club. I know it's not a goal I would ever set today. Although I might have if I wouldn't have the success that I also back then did not have. But yeah, kind of a childish goal because it's like, oh, everything's possible, and actually it is possible. And actually that's how I met one of my ex-girlfriends. I literally went into a club, and this is when I read the manual for I knew the concept for at least a year. This was in 2015. I was in a club in Amsterdam. I walked into the club, and there was this one girl that just crossed, like she just walks past you, and she was the most beautiful girl that I have seen that I had seen in a very long time. And I was like, I need to get to know her. So I instantly, as the book teaches you, just went straight after her. And I said, excuse me. And that's what I said, right? Being direct, being open. This is so beautiful about the book. The book teaches you to be open. You don't need to lie or be manipulative or do these stupid games, which I always thought, and almost every guy out there thinks you have to do, right? So I just walked up to her. I said, excuse me. I truly believe you are an exceptionally beautiful woman, and I would love to get to know you. Well, that was the beginning of a relationship of 1.5 years with a nice girl, my ex-girlfriend, of course. And so, by the way, I have a terrible cold, so yeah, if I talk weird, you know why. But oh yeah, so I set the goal that I wanted to attract the most beautiful girl in the club within 5 minutes, right? And that's exactly what I achieved. And the book made me achieve that goal. Of course, also my own application of the book and my blind faith. And I did not approach the book like that. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, when I started reading the book, the first 50 pages of the book, I read very slow, like over a couple of months. And actually, when I bought the book, I bought like 8 or 7 books on seduction, right? Because I knew I wanted to get good on it. I bought all these different books. All of them were crap. The manual, I kid you not, was the last book on the pile that I started reading. So I approached that book with a lot of skepticism because all the other books, I didn't know what it actually took to attract a woman. But what I did know intuitively, that these other books, I'm not gonna name them, but like a lot of like these popular pickup artists, PUAs, which back then were very, very popular. Like now the trend is like, mostly because of also like censorship on YouTube and stuff like that. But like 10 years ago, these pickup artists were massive, were very big. They all wrote books, and like they all the books that I read, they all were, have been, not all, but like most of them have been on YouTube. And so they were all garbage. Like literally, some had like some interesting ideas, but nothing that worked for me anyway. And for me to apply something, I really need to believe in it, and so and then I started reading the manual, and the first 50 pages of the book, I was like skeptical as hell, and it took me 2 months to get past that. And then my brother invited me on a plane to Poland, and I brought the book with me. I thought, okay, Poland, like, he told me the girls here are amazing. I've never been there. I was like, okay, I bring the book with me. That book, I've read a lot of books in my life, but if I would have to pick one book that changed the course of my life more than any other book, there's actually two. The first one by far is the manual. The second is the Smoke Freeway, because it helped me to quit smoking 8 years ago, which might, you know, and we'll never know, but it might have had an even bigger impact, because who knows by what age I could have gotten lung cancer, right? So those two books, but yeah, the manual like completely changed my experience, completely changed the course of my life. As a matter of fact, my whole 20s, I barely worked, I barely focused on my career. I mostly just enjoyed pursuing women and dating, you know. And I also built businesses, but I could have become much more successful if I didn't get that distracted, which is one of the reasons why, you know, it's a question whether it's actually something good that happened to me, because you will be distracted depending on how novelty seeking oriented you are, right? I'm a high dopamine seeking individual. I've done a lot of personality tests. I've been diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm a person who loves novelty. To a person like me, if you're like that, you need to be careful with this book, because this book will make you able to, and like, in like in marketing videos they say, oh, please don't use this information for like, because you're like very powerful now with this information and like you can do harm. It's like, I'm not trying to sound stupid like that, but it's actually true. You need to be careful if you're dopamine driven, if you are high novelty seeking, right? If you enjoy novelty, if you're the kind of person that hates doing the same thing every day, you always try new things, you barely finish what you start. This book, you really need to be careful, because like, you know, I've been distracted. And you can ask my brother. We started many businesses together, and like we didn't speak for years because of fights, and you know, mostly because I just didn't do the work. I was just too busy dating. Thank God I'm older now, and I have my priorities. You know, I'm not that like a young hyena anymore. But yeah, anyway, that's my take on the book. If you have struggles with women, I don't care who you are. If you do not have the exact results that you would like to have, do yourself a favor and read the manual. And then once you read that book like 5 times, there's one other book that I could recommend to you that will polish everything. I'm not going to mention it here though, because it's going to distract you. I want you to just read the manual first. And then you can get in touch with me and I'll tell you about the other book. The other person you can learn a lot from. So that's it. I don't know if I'm going to upload this video to YouTube, but I think I should, because I think this could help a lot of guys out there. Best of luck to you. If you have any questions, get in touch with me. I've helped a lot of guys with this stuff and I have the results to back it up. Whether you believe it or not. Oh, and by the way, I already know that I'm going to get comments on like, yeah, but you're good looking. It's like, yes, that helps. I'm not saying that, but I've had that, you know, in the past I made some videos on YouTube. I always got that comment. Yeah, look at you, you know, you look great, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Okay, maybe. That helps. I totally agree. But that is like 20% or maybe 30%. By far the majority of your success will come from your behavior. And you can be as good looking as you want, but if you don't look her straight in their eyes and you say, look, I really like you. I would like to get to know you. And you say that in a very natural, confident way, you know, that is more attractive than if you have a pretty face and you're stuttering over your words, or you don't even have the, you know how many women told me that they always make the guy nervous when they look at him in his eyes, but that I am the first guy that they get shy because I look them fearlessly in their eyes. And I do that not because I try to make a point. I do that because I really enjoy looking at her, right? She's beautiful. And so, you know, I'm a visual man, like most men. And I love just looking at her. And I'm not intimidated by her because she's beautiful or very sexy or anything like that. So I love looking at her, just look her in her eyes with a smile on my face and being like, you know, I find you gorgeous. And this woman that is so used to making men shy and men not having the balls to look her straight in her eyes. For the first time, she tells me that she's like, what, you know, you're making me shy, and like this is crazy, and that is sad, right? I mean, come on, it's not some superpower that I have. I'm just not intimidated by her, and I have experience. So, but you can have that too, and that's why I made this video. That's it. Best of luck to you, and share any success stories with me that you might have.